Accept a motion to resume our meeting. We met in executive session before.
So second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're back in business. I just have to add to our agenda letter from Dick Verkus, which we'll have under correspondence for discussion. And we have to follow up on the executive session evaluation with our new zoning administrator. That will be under other business. And with that, we're going to go out of order a little bit so we can have the state police begin that discussion. And do you want to come up?
Oh, sure.
I'll introduce Lieutenant Tim Oliver. He's the new commander of the Westminster Barracks, of the new barracks in Westminster.
That's right.
Paul Favre was our contact, and Tim's going to be our contact now.
Right, so Paul was transferred. And probably middle of July, we moved the, Brattleboro was closed, as you probably know. Rockingham was closed, so we consolidated at Westminster. So Westminster now covers both areas. So I am the newly named station commander down there, so anything you folks need, I'm him. So
I think our discussion tonight was we'd like to know a little bit, you could tell us a little bit about the new barracks, but
sure.
We'd really like to address the break-ins and what we as a town might be able to do, what your thoughts are, and speeding is a big issue in Dummerston, so if you want to just touch on that a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, and maybe what advice you'd have for people if they, with their homes, they come home and find the doors open, and what they should be doing, who they should call.
Sure. I'll go with the speeding first.
Yep.
So the speeding, we have a certain amount of troopers assigned to the barracks, and we have an extremely large area. So there may be days you do not see a trooper in Dummerston. It could very well happen. What you folks can do is if you do have a specific area you want addressed, contact me. And then what I would do is I would have a sergeant assign a trooper to monitor that area. It's called a directed patrol. And a trooper would come down for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever they felt necessary, make a showing, obviously, with a marked cruiser, and do some traffic enforcement. That's the easiest way, because I can't just all of a sudden say, hey, go here. I don't know. I don't know where you folks are having a problem. The most information I'm going to get from the town of Dummerston is right here. And that goes with burglaries as well. If you folks are getting a rash of burglaries, or you, better yet, you see suspicious circumstances, maybe somebody can call me and then I can get that information to my troopers to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. You guys have a lot more eyes than I do. You know what I'm saying? Almost like a community watch type thing. So that's my best information for you as far as the burglaries, is keeping an eye on each other's neighborhoods. You know what's normal in town, what's suspicious in town. Have people, if you have some way of getting the information besides this, you know, pad of paper in the car, you know, hey, this vehicle is in this driveway, I don't think it belongs there, looked a little out of place, contact me, we can do follow-up, we can run the license plate, we can, and sometimes it's gonna end up being a mistake, but sometimes it isn't. As far as the recent rash of burglaries, one of my troopers just made an arrest on, and we're still trying to iron out how many burglaries it is, but it was a bunch in Putney, Wyndham, Westminster, and Dummerston. So we're getting all the property. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of property. So and we're trying to interview the people. One guy's in jail in New Hampshire, so we're trying to interview him to figure out where the exact places he and his associates had, because it's more than just him. So it's an investigation that's going on right now. That's the main thing I can tell you. Community watch type program is the best way to get us information. And then if there's area of concern that you folks have, just somebody contact me and I'll make sure they're addressed. Because if the squeaky wheel gets the grease every single time. If I think everything's going fine in Dummerston, then I'm going to put my resources and my manpower where it's needed, where I'm told it's needed. So I am new to the area. I was a detective down in the Brattleboro area for quite a while, but I've never been a patrol officer down here. So it's sort of new to me. I have a learning curve. So the best way I can get information and get ramped up real quick is through conversations with you folks. So I'm right at the barracks. I work Monday through Friday, cell phone's on me 24/7, so you need it, you have my email
Yep.
now too, so
Yep.
you need something or text, whatever, just give me a shout and I'll get you what you need. It's all about communication. Let me know what's going on and I'll make the appropriate adjustments.
So, someone sees a car they don't think belongs there. There's a non-emergency number.
Correct.
That's the one they should use?
Yes,
Okay,
722-4600,
okay,
that's our new number.
all right.
Best thing is a license plate. It's difficult to say, a lot of people aren't familiar with the makes and models of cars,
Right.
so if you can, don't put yourself in a dangerous situation, obviously, but if you can, try to get a license plate for us. That way we can track down the registered owner of that vehicle, make a phone call, why were you at this particular spot at a particular time? It makes our job a lot easier. If you call and say, hey, I got a suspicious car at this intersection right now, the chances of a trooper I mean, think about it. I mean, that's an extremely large area for me, 21 troopers. So it's just very large. We're doing the best we can, and we're trying to get and keep troopers on the road for the majority of their shift, so that they're not at the barracks doing administrative stuff and then have to respond. They're on the road to begin with, but it is a very large area, and we have the interstate as well. So, and then you asked me earlier too, while I'm thinking of it, you say if somebody comes home and finds their house broken into, the best thing they can do is stay out of that house for several reasons. One, you don't know if somebody's still in the house, and two, it preserves evidence. You know, we can go in and see if we can find whatever physical evidence that may still be there before people go in and start moving things. And we can take photos and so on and so forth.
And is that a non-emergency or is that a 911 call?
If they're not going into the house, I'd say that's 911. Yeah, so it's a burglary unknown if there's somebody still in the house, so that would be 911. That's a little more urgent. So.
I didn't introduce myself. I'm Joe Cook. How are you?
Good to meet you, sir.
Good to meet you too. How do you work together with the sheriff's department? I mean, we contract with them to do traffic enforcement and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Do you work together?
We do, of course. We both have obviously law enforcement powers, patrol services that we provide. We give them backup, they give us backup, and we communicate daily. If they have something, they're tied up here, they'll call and say, hey, can you help out here, and vice versa. So, same with the local police department too, Brattleboro and whatever other local PDs, Chester and Springfield. And so, yeah, we all work well together.
So with the 911 then, would the Vermont State Police be the primary responder to something like that, or could it be the sheriff's department? Depending, how do they dispatch that in, or does it?
I don't know what contract you have with the sheriffs.
It's basically just for monitoring speed.
So the state police are the default agency for any criminal activity as well. So we would be the primary.
Okay.
And our officers are obviously all full-time certified. So we're full service law enforcement. And at the sheriff's department, I don't know who they assigned. Sometimes they have part-timers that may not have the same qualifications per se. And if that's the situation and they do come upon it, they'll call us and we'll work it out one way or another. But we are the default agency for the town.
Okay.
So Tim, could you say again what the area is that you're responsible for and how many troopers you have?
I have approximately 21 troopers assigned to my table of organization, and we cover everything that Brattleboro used to cover, the whole southern part of Windham County. We also have Windsor County, and that includes all the way up to almost White River Junction. So that was the old Rockingham barracks. Oh, it's massive. I mean, you think about it. I could get called, or one of my troopers could get called from Dummerston to all of a sudden you gotta go to Weston. Or mile marker 59 on the interstate.
Yeah.
It's a long ways, and we've been dealing with it, and we have a good plan in place. We keep the troopers on the road. The troopers that were assigned to Brattleboro have now been, they'll have shifts where they're assigned up north where they weren't covering before, so they can learn the area, and the same with Rockingham guys, they'll go down to Brattleboro, so that we have one cohesive barracks where both sets of troopers know the whole area now that it's been consolidated. So, it's a large area, it's very large.
And you're and the new barracks is in Westminster?
Westminster, right, on Westminster
On
Heights
Route
Road. Westminster Heights Road,
Okay.
so.
It's
Just
right
off of Route 5.
right off the thruway at exit.
5. You get off exit 5, you bang a quick right-hand turn and maybe 100 yards up the road. Westminster Heights Road is on the right. You take a right-hand turn, the barracks is sitting right there on the left. You cannot miss it.
Yeah, it's big.
It is very
It's
big.
new.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's not, it looks nice, yeah.
Compared to
So,
some of the other ones I've been in through my career.
so at the Putney meeting, I guess it was last week, when they
Yes.
had a law enforcement, you were there, and
Yes.
the sheriff's department was there. I think both the sheriff and you made it clear to people, if they had a break-in or some problem that wasn't life-threatening, and they made a call, they might have to wait if the resources were spread out and there were more life-threatening situations going on elsewhere, that sometimes a break-in isn't the highest priority incident going on at a
Correct.
particular time. And so sometimes people just will need to understand that there's more going on and
Absolutely.
you have limited.
So we had a fatal car accident on the interstate the other day, and that took all my resources. We had, our whole day shift was at that fatal car accident, shutting down the interstate, doing the crash investigation, and a bunch of other things, obviously, for a fatal car. We had to call troopers in to respond accordingly to that. The normal day-to-day calls. So we can adjust to that. It happens. It's luckily very infrequently, but we do triage calls. We're going to prioritize them. If I get an alarm at an unoccupied residence, or I get a two-car accident with entrapment, we're going to the accident first. I'm sending all my resources there before I go deal with it. Life safety is our number one priority, always. So I'm going to triage it from there.
That was quick.
Yeah, anyone have questions for Officer Oliver? No? Okay.
That's my kind of meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah, right.
we do wanna thank you for what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Oh my
Really.
gosh, my
The state
pleasure.
police is so important.
Well, thank you, I
All of
appreciate
us.
it. Anything you need, contact me.
Yeah.
I can't do what I don't know, but if I know what your folks' needs are, I'll adjust to it, and we'll get you directed patrols.
We had a good relationship with Paul and.
Paul's a good guy, he's a classmate of mine. We came on together
Oh.
26 plus years ago, so he's a really, really good guy.
Yeah, he was great.
We
So-
talk like he's not here anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
He's still a really
He's
good
still
guy.
pretty busy, yeah,
so-
yeah.
But you need anything at all, let me know.
Yeah, will do,
You need me to
yeah.
come answer
Good
questions
deal.
we have.
Thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Great to
Great to meet you.
All right.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet
Take care.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
for coming.
Yep. Take care.
Thanks.
We'll see you guys soon. Okay.
All right, stay safe.
Thanks, will do.
Okay. Any more thoughts, questions about that? Okay, so now we're gonna go back to our regular schedule, and we have the minutes from August 17th.
I'll move we approve the minutes from August 17th.
I'll take a second,
I'll second that.
okay? And any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I will abstain.
Okay. Moving on, we have bills for payment. We have warrant 5 and warrant 5P.
I'll keep going.
Okay, you're on the roll.
I move we approve warrant 5 and 5B for payment.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, the warrant 5P is the payroll, and warrant 5 is our regular municipal budget. The total amount for this 2-week period is $714,010.07. And of that, $605,573 and a few nickels are going to the Dummerston School. We've paid $1,205,572 so far for the school payments this fiscal year. And I guess we're about halfway there, and then the state will pay the rest. Other than that, we have A.S. Clark for work on Tucker Reed and Park Lawton roads. Payroll transfers, some gravel, fuel, and $3,506 for chloride. So, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good. All right, let's see, the road foreman's report. And we don't have a road foreman here, but we have the results from the Wickopee Hill Road traffic study.
I could just quickly on road foreman.
Yeah.
I did visit with Lee about the crack sealing,
Yeah,
and if I remember right, we're going to the gallon price,
$1.35.
and it's probably not gonna go quite as far as we'd hoped. We're probably gonna be, I think he said, 1/10 of a mile short or so of treating all the road surfaces that we'd hoped to. But he would find somewhere that wasn't as bad as other places, so. He actually spent 3 or 4 days, Lee did, talking with people and getting information back, and
Oh, good.
he did a good job looking
Okay.
at that, so.
So our approval of the bid was subject
To
or
his-
condition on him.
Him looking into it and finding out, in other words, it wasn't a gallon price plus the contract price, it was one or the other.
Yeah,
And then to discuss the type of material we were using, and he was satisfied with the type of material that the company that we wanted to have do it was using, and then we just discussed if we did the per gallon price, would it do the whole thing? And the crux of that was it might not do all of it, but he was gonna go on ahead with that, so.
okay, so, Wickopee Hill, the results of I know what the folder looks like, I just don't see it here. There it is. I know that's not it. Let's try green one, since they're highway report. Okay, Wickopee Hill, this is the road study that Wyndham Regional Commission did. They found the average speed at one of the places where they set the tapes was 25 miles an hour, and the 85th percentile was 29 miles per hour. That means that 85% of the vehicles were traveling no faster than 29 miles per hour. And the other section where they set the tapes, which was a little right on the Brattleboro town line, just about. The average speed was 21 miles per hour, and the 85th percentile was again 27 miles per hour, 2 miles slower. So, and I called Wyndham Regional to talk with Matt Mann just to discuss this, and found that he's not working there anymore.
Really?
So, yes. But I did get some information from Chris Campany. So, what are your thoughts?
What I did when I looked at that, was it directional, like that 21 and 27 from the one by the Brattleboro town line? Does that have any bearing on what direction cars were coming? Like, if they're coming from Brattleboro or Dummerston,
It hasn't on any other traffic study that I'm aware of.
I was curious, because the speed limit's in Brattleboro is 25, so if that's what they were doing, they're getting it right there. I'm just trying to think if that makes any sense,
Right, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't have the answer to that. I don't think.
Well, I drove it, and gave myself a blind drive test on it, not literally blind, but, it's funny, I drove it 29 miles an hour was the speed that when I was just driving, and then I'd look down, and I was driving, until you get to go down the hill, and then you would be essentially kind of foolish, I think, to drive 29 miles an hour. You tend to slow down as you go down the hill. And that road's actually kind of washed out right now on the east side of it a little bit, so I'm sure. So I gave myself my own traffic study, and it matched up this one.
Next time we'll just send you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think
Yeah.
I think the self-regulating part of it that's discussed when we wrote that traffic setting Vermont speed limits, I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, you do, with the 89 percentile, you do tend to set the a safe speed. But I guess what I will go about, just to cut this short, then when you look at, we have a sign right there at Route 30 that says 25, and then you hit the hill and it says 35, and then it goes to 25. I mean, honestly, in the interest of just common sense, it probably, with this, I would just throw out there, probably 25, a consistent speed limit is acceptable. I don't know if, I know that's a little below the 85 percentile. I know the state doesn't, they kind of let you self-regulate, but just 25 to 35 to 25, and you get that one stretch. I mean, having seen it, I would entertain lowering the speed limit, I think.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? I think the next step, if we follow the procedure correctly, would be for the road foreman and a select board member to do a road survey. Just drive together up the road, and you'd be looking for the width of the road, the condition of the road, any hazards, blind curves, just as, and then with that report back, then we would either we'd have a discussion and we would either vote to change the speed limit or keep it the same. And then if we were to change it, I think we'd do that, and then in 60 days it would become effective.
I think you should just go take the 35-mile-an-hour sign down.
You know, the 60-day part is fine. I guess I didn't realize we had to go back with the road foreman, but the 60 days is for an ordinance issue. It's either 60 days, no earlier, or we set a date 6 months from now if we wanted to. But if that's something that you're interested in, I mean, I will do that. I can get a hold of Lee and participate in that with him, and then come back and tell you essentially what I just told you right now.
And we'd probably vote the way we would if we took the vote right now.
Okay, and it would be effective 60 days after our vote, is that?
I checked to make sure. I think it's effective then, but it can be challenged up to 60 days. Is that how you
I think
remember?
when I read that, because any ordinance that you write, you actually have to have a 60-day hearing period, and then within there are times, but I think it can't become effective till the end of 60 days. And that is due to like warning the public, having a hearing, which would just be one of our regular meetings essentially, and then unless somebody, the alternative is once we have the ordinance, we say this is going to be our ordinance. 60 days from now, we have the hearing. The only thing that would stand in its way is if a petition of 5% of the voters came to us and said that we don't agree with your ordinance and we want a townwide vote.
Right.
So.
Okay.
But we need to have a hearing?
Yes, but it's really just one of our
meetings.
Like it's one of our meetings, and we just warn it as a public.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And we have to have the ordinance though to do that. Written.
Okay. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I doubt we'll get 5% of the town to go on this, but who knows?
Yeah.
So that everyone all right with Hugh?
Yeah, thank you, Hugh.
Great. Good. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah. Comments,
Yes.
most of the questions.
Okay.
I think it's, if Hugh, you're going to go up there and do a road study, it's, I want to just implore you to please listen to the residents of that neighborhood, because you're going to see something at a certain period of time when you choose to go up there, as opposed to the reality of living on the road. Let me give you an example. A couple examples. One is that there are certain times of the day when a person who owns a stable there is out there with young riders on horses. You're likely not going to see that, but that person's out there sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. There are times now with horse shows going on where she's gone for days. So, you know, the riding happens more so during the summer when these young kids are in school. Now it's going to happen more so on the weekends. The other thing to keep in mind is that, you know, again, to listen to the neighborhood, I was asked to please suggest 2 locations for those Wyndham Regional Commission boxes before they put them on. I did this in consultation with the neighborhood and in observation of how traffic travels on that road, recommended 2 locations. The one location was used. The other one, the people in our neighborhood just shook their head. They put it on the Brattleboro-Dummerston line, right where our mailboxes are, and right where all the residents slow down to 5 miles per hour going over that. That speed piece right there. We're all coming in from Brattleboro going 5 miles per hour as we're getting ready to pick up our mail. Right at those boxes. The absolutely worst place you could have put one of those traffic monitors. It's also right there at a curve that goes up and over, and of course right at that spot people are going to slow down. But it's actually at a place between part of the Wood residence and near the end of my property that is the flattest, widest part on that road, where you get people literally, I can now tell with the dryness on the road. I look in my rear view mirror and I go 20 miles per hour, I go 25, I go 35, and I can tell by how much dust is kicked up on the road. I could probably give you a good idea if you drove back and forth across my house 5 times and then stopped in and said, give a guess on how fast I went in front of your house from the first time to the 5th time. I bet you I'd be within 2 or 3 miles per hour of that, based on how I saw dust being kicked up on the road. People fly on that flat stretch at least at 35, 40 miles per hour, which also when you have some of the families who have children on that road are now on bicycles. You're only going to see a certain thing, so I do implore you to, keep those things in mind when you're looking at the conditions there, that it might be a little bit different than what you might
No,
say.
absolutely. I mean, honestly, with the traffic study, my initial thoughts were to leave it alone. But then after having driven it myself several times, not sure, seeing where those were, yeah, the reality on the ground is a little different than just getting the piece of paper and seeing the study on it. But I'll just make it, where I live, and I understand, you could drive by where I live, and if you're not there all the time, you won't see people speeding either. I mean, it happens, or doing other things. But however, I will say that a road is a road, and the primary purpose is motor transport. That's what it's for. So yeah, we need to set those limits. With the residential character of the area certainly on our mind, and I think it will be with this. So I mean, I understand what you're saying. Balancing that with the car traffic, but I think your request is, we'll do the study, and I think it'll.
Thanks.
Put it on the line. Yeah.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay. We have discussion of parking issues on West Street in West Dummerston Village.
Okay, so I guess let me just, so in the interest of full disclosure, I guess this popped up. I wrote a letter to the DRB for a hearing they had with the parking issues on that. So I guess, and mine was, there was a hearing going on about adding a residential, an apartment to one of the buildings there. So I wrote them a letter with my concern of parking, because parking on West Street, this is where we have our issue. Depending on the time of day you go there are people who, they encroach on the travel portion of the road. My letter to them simply said that before they entertain any additional residential building or apartments, they've really got to look at the traffic plan, or the parking plan very clearly, and I know they will, because it's in the bylaws. I mean, it's kind of clear cut. So I guess in the interest of full disclosure, I just want to bring that up, and we'll talk about that as a conflict of interest, but having reviewed the conflict of interest issues, my intent is to participate in this conversation, and based on that, just get on the record, you have direct or indirect monetary interest, or direct or indirect personal interest that can either affect our legislative, executive, or judicial functions as a select board. And I really, I don't have any monetary interest in
Right.
parking.
No, I don't think there's an issue of a conflict.
Okay, then I won't go into my whole diatribe
anyone
on
else?
why I'm going to stay.
No, okay, all right. I'm just hoping you might know more about this situation. I looked up the town ordinance on parking, and the only thing I could find is dealing with snow under Article 5, parking of vehicles. Whenever a vehicle is parked in such a manner as to interfere with the removal of snow, or which obstructs highway department road work, the town may tow the vehicle away at the owner's expense. So that's the only parking regulations I can find.
Mm-hmm. It is, and did you, John Gregory sent a letter in on the parking, which that's a little down from my house. So, I mean, I guess, and you drive through the village, I would suspect you quite a bit. And I talked with the road foreman today about this based on a letter, and I told him I won't put, I don't wanna put words in his mouth, but I think it's fair to say that, you know, he is concerned about the parking on West Street too, because it does impact the snow removal or the snow plowing, you know, because as you drive down the street, you know, they're driving down the street and then they gotta come out for a car parked and back in, and then when that car moves, now you got the snow that sticks out a couple feet into the road and things. So I think it is an issue. I think it's relatively under control at the moment, but again, I just go back to before we start increasing residences or, you know, adding apartments and things, that we need to make, the DRB will do this, I'm sure, but then we need to make sure that their decisions, you know, if they find a parking problem, we need to make sure that it's being enforced, I guess, is what I would lead to. And I don't, as far as John's letter there, did you ever, it's where it talks about parking above the post office. At one time, the lady who owned the post office, she did not want people parking, you know, that's her lawn area there, and there's like a small area of asphalt that leads out to her lawn that years ago, why it was paved, I don't know why it's paved, but it is paved. And so she had put flower pots, you know, out there to prevent people from parking there. And essentially that's been going, I would say, for 5 or 6 years. I think we even moved the school bus stop a little bit, you know, although it still stops right down by that area, so the kids could stand off the road at a time. I'm not sure if it's still there, but those, I guess, according to John's letter, have been moved to the side, and now there's parking going on along the road there. So we're now parking more on the road, was his concern.
So it was John Gregory?
Yes.
He wrote to Alan McBain, isn't that correct?
Yes.
He did, yes, he wrote to the DRB.
Yes,
Okay.
and Alan forwarded it to us.
And I can't, you know, I can't quote the DRB, you know, what you know, have X amount of parking spaces per residential, you know, per apartment. So I know that was an issue that came up at the DRB hearing. And John's letter was just, the parking had started up on the top of the hill there, because that lady's not in the house anymore. I don't know how long she's been gone, so.
Yeah, they're not parking, they're parking, she's parking her back end in the road at times too.
Okay, I have
Yeah.
seen, I have seen that.
And I understand, but just like you told them, it's depending on what time of day
Yeah.
and you're gone out of there. Lately, it's more in the afternoon that there's more parking problems, because the other day I was going up through, and there were so many cars parked, there was kids playing, and I actually almost hit one kid on a bike because he came out from a parked car. So we are at times having more problems,
Yeah.
and at other times it's dead, there's nobody parked on the road. But it's happening more and more.
So I guess the question is like, the enforcement aspect of it, I suppose, if there's a problem.
Yeah, we'd have to have something to enforce,
Right.
and unless it's snowing. We
Think
don't-
so?
Yeah. So maybe we wait for the DRB to address this, and then possibly, if they don't feel they have enough, more work needs to be done, then it would go to the planning commission for more work to address this, and
Is John's letter here?
possibly to us. I'm sure it is.
If you wanna start looking through the folders.
Well, I looked through unfinished business, I didn't see it.
I'll,
So
It's
is there,
probably-
has there
it's probably
been,
back to 2 or 3 other emails, Jeremy,
Yeah.
that's why.
yeah, has there been any, attempt to have the residents on West Street talk about what they think the parking regulations should be for West Street?
Did you say, has that happened?
Yeah.
I don't believe it's happened, because really, you know, there's a couple, you know, parking, like everything in the village, is limited, right? So
Is what?
Is limited. So those who have driveways, you know, are off the road. Those who don't have sort of created, now that, you know, because that used to be Route 30 years ago,
Right.
but it's not. You know, people have essentially kind of parked parallel to the road, you know, for the most part off
Half on their
off
lawn
the paved
or-
highway, but
Yeah,
you know, it's they
there isn't
wander
a
in and out,
designated
but-
shoulder.
But I think this letter was strictly something that just happened within the last, couple weeks.
Yeah, 'cause
years,
Well, go ahead, Harold.
the last 3 or 4 years, it's got worse, because two families have converted rental property that they're renting to multiple families.
Right.
And they're bringing in 5 and 6 cars or more.
Right.
And they're driving in and they're sticking themselves out in the road, and then they're parking on the lawn on the neighbors. In fact, the owner of the property even said to them, "You can park at the church." Well, I jumped on them about it because being deacon of the church, we were paying to have it plowed, and they said, oh, they told us it was okay to park there because there's no place to park.
Right.
They'd already been shooed out of the community center because they were paying for it down there to get done. These people are running bed and breakfast, and they're having multiple families in there. And my concern is on the weekends, when it's like that, there's elderly people in the village, not myself, but there's others older. You cannot get an ambulance through there if you had to,
Yeah.
because the cars are packed so tight.
Right.
And if we had a fire, it would be impossible for them to move a truck.
Right.
And they know it too, and they've seen it. So, it's a very tough situation. And now that Virginia is no longer living in the village, and her property is not being, they moved her flower pots out of the road and they're sticking their cars there.
Right.
So this,
Because
this
they're
is the owner
supposed to
of
park in front of their own house, but they don't.
The other thing, if I could add one more thing, is they're also advertising on Airbnb, if there's overflow parking, just park on your neighbors. It's
They're
right
advertising
in
that
the-
right on the
yeah.
web.
And they're advertising online.
Tell me your name?
Paul Chapman,
Paul Chapman.
right
Yeah.
down the street from, West Street.
I missed that again, Paul. Who's advertising?
On Airbnb, there's it's the
There's one rental.
Craftsman House right next to Hughes.
Yeah.
Advertised in their section there under rules, overflow parking, park across the street with traffic.
Yeah,
Oh.
but,
But it's not their property.
right.
And they're advertising for someplace for 12 people for occupancy
Right.
with no place to park them, and they're jamming up downtown. It's been going on for about 12 years.
My question is, have you or other people talked to them personally? You know, I mean, before we go into the DRB and the Planning Commission and the Select Board to talk neighbor to neighbor,
The neighbors don't live there, they just rent that property.
well,
I think they're
That's
aware
not
of.
true.
No,
That's
I think
not
they're
right.
aware of issues. This is,
Yeah.
I think there's been enough people moving around and
Right.
talking to them. I don't think this is anything that they're not aware of.
I mean, it's Nick and Natalie, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Alex lives right there, and their mom lives right there. I mean, it's
Right.
a
Yeah.
family
I know
group that's
compound.
there.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so I just would hope that we could talk to each other and
I
come to.
I think the issues go with the DRB rulings that some people feel haven't been followed.
Okay.
And I wrote a letter to the DRB expressing that. I came to the meeting out in the DRB with the new apartment going in.
Mm-hmm.
And discrepancies between what's claimed for parking, which, or apparent discrepancies. But they have a tendency to park wherever they want.
Well,
Do you, I mean, you must have
doesn't make
noticed it. You
sense.
live right up the hill.
Oh yeah, no, I
You-
mean
you
I've
notice
seen
how
it.
they-
I've just
Okay, so
wondered.
it's been going on for about 12 years. When do you just say forget it and bring it to the town? And that's what people are doing. In a nutshell, it's just
So what you're saying is you already have gone to them personally.
no. No, I have not personally. But I
mean, I think of them as very reasonable people, and
I do too. But I think it's time to have something official. I don't know how many occupancy. I don't know what the DRB gave them for the church or other. It seems that their occupancy rates have increased to add more parking.
So it's a good time to talk.
But to have something officially done. Because I don't know if they will follow unofficial. I noticed that they haven't always followed their current rulings.
Yeah.
Like in front of the Grange Hall, there's only supposed to be parking for one.
Well, it'd be good to know what the,
That's why I put the letter in
yeah,
to the DRB,
yeah,
asking to look at all the issues.
yeah.
And I understand neighborliness and all that. It's after, I think Harold and Gene and other people could say, after 12 years, I think people are just tired of parking on the lawn. I know that the tiers have asked them not to park there. I know other people have said things in the past, but
Yeah.
I think it's now to do something a little bit more concrete. It's just my thoughts.
So maybe, what do you think?
I know parking's an issue there, just from going through there with equipment, it's challenging some days.
Sounds like it's a planning commission matter.
It would seem like the DRB would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this kind of carried further than what I initially thought. We were kind of just concentrating on the new permit that may or may not be issued, but now we're kind of extending it further up. So I'll throw out of town for a little bit. I mean, I live right next to, for the most part, that area is, it's a come and go type thing. So I guess I didn't really give it all that much thought. It's just, mine was more any new stuff needed to be really looked at closely. But I mean, I'll be happy to go over and talk to them about that. But I just want to, we don't paint that road. That's a class 3 road. I said going through there, correct? So it could easily be painted, yellow lines and white lines, and then it has all the regulations, and we don't do that. And I don't think, if we do that, then you get into all the repercussions of, touching the white line or not. So I mean, I guess I'm advocating, kind of I don't want a snail approach, but I don't want to, nobody brought that up. I was saying that let's not go, I don't think anybody's advocating for going and painting the road and making it all, you can't touch the white line or you can't do this. We need to just watch as new construction or new residences come in and keep an eye on, really until the permit comes through, the new one can't be answered until we see the DRB permit and then how they've written it and how they issue it.
Right.
The other parking, we can just, again, we can talk about the parking issue to the people that own the properties and see what we can get out of that.
I mean, this isn't the first time this issue's come to us. I mean, was it 3 years ago when we spent a fair amount of time talking about
About parking on West Street?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, there, from what I heard you say, Zeke, there isn't anything official. It's just that one statement that you read about the snow
Yes,
removal.
we don't have an ordinance that says, addresses parking in, West Dummerston
don't.
Village. No, we don't.
Yeah.
Other than throughout the town, nuisance parking during
Right.
snow
Okay, so,
removal.
what would be the body that would do that? Is that the DRB?
Well, I mean, it's a road, so there's got to be regulations
Yeah.
on parking in a traveled portion of a road.
Right, so the planning commission might get involved, the select board would get involved if we wanted an ordinance to address traffic parking in West Dummerston Village or other parts of town. Then yes, the buck would stop with us.
I would think it would be a planning commission matter because, I mean, that's what they do.
They just write the zoning, and no, the planning commission doesn't technically have any jurisdictional power. They write the town plan and they write the zoning. The DRB has the
More the enforcement.
enforcement,
Yeah.
Right.
or the jurisdictional.
I mean,
But again, as Zeke said, I mean, if it's a problem and the state statute or whatever that covers parking, clearly you can't park you shouldn't be parking on your neighbor's property without permission. I mean, certainly the select board could get involved.
Yeah, and
It's been a problem for quite a while, right, Harold? I mean,
It has been for the last,
this is not the first night we've discussed it.
it's increased in the last 10 years, 10 to 12 years, even worse.
yeah.
I
Well,
think
it's
it
a growth
started
issue,
originally
too.
with Lee and plowing and.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
Okay, growth, you're right, growth issue on, adding apartments to what at one time were single family or non-residences. So I guess growth in that sense, but you still have to have appropriate parking by the
Right.
zoning bylaws
Right.
to, if you have, you know, you gotta have, for 3 apartments, you gotta have 6 spaces, and they have to be X size, and they've gotta.
And
be
where
lined
is that
a certain way.
stated?
That's the zoning
Zoning
bylaws.
bylaws.
Yeah, the thing is that she's supposed to have parking down back, and now she don't even go down there and park, because that's part of her permit when she converted the Grange Hall. And what she do, she parks up front or on somebody else's property.
Yeah.
She didn't make the parking spaces down back, she's supposed to, or don't even attempt to park down there. She
So
just
if I-
sticks out in the road, and if you wanna go to the post office, you gotta try to get around and hope a car isn't coming the other way, if you can get by, to get down in there.
So if I can
Yeah.
help you bring this to a
Yes,
conclusion.
yes, I'd like, yeah, please.
Hugh, if I understood, you were willing to,
Well, I'll go talk to Nick and Natalie, but
Yeah.
again, you know, when I brought this up, and I will be happy to talk to them,
Okay.
but my concern was, when I first wrote this letter, was
The
new
future.
stuff
Right.
that's
Yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
it won't be approved because it's a zoning bylaw, but as a resident, and they got letters from several residents for parking and other
Right.
issues that, they've got to look at that, and they will, I mean, I don't know how it keeps.
And
will.
they-
and it isn't.
They are the
DRB.
DRB.
Yeah. And it isn't necessarily just one location necessarily either.
Right.
It's a
Right, we've
Parking
got a
problem.
couple, and
Yeah.
we can't continue to add more.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so you'll talk with them, that'll be the second, and
That-
then what's your next step?
I will then maybe let us know
Yeah.
what they've said,
Okay.
and that's a
Okay.
place to
Yeah.
start.
All right,
I guess in the meantime, maybe I could review state statute. and-
yes, let's do that,
And,
let's get ready, let's prepare, and, we'll see what the DRB does. Maybe we can review, previous or ask the DRB to look in, let's see, how do we get,
Well, I think this could be kind of in parallel with what Kathleen's doing for the B&Bs, right?
Yeah.
Because that's part of what she's trying to
we
research.
could look for decisions regarding, that would affect parking in West Dummerston Village. Decisions that the DRB has already made for apartments, how many spaces they have to have, so we can find out what's already been decided and what
Good.
the DRB has already determined. Then we can maybe go from there
Right.
and see, do we need to get the planning commission involved, or do we just enforce what the DRB has already done, or ask the zoning administrator to enforce what the DRB has already?
The enforcement lands on us, right? I mean, the DRB.
Actually, I think the zoning administrator enforces it.
But we would have to authorize the.
Yeah,
Yeah, for a newly issued.
yeah,
for
yeah, we
legal
supply the
action.
muscle.
Yeah.
We need to give her a pink helmet, I think.
Yeah.
For a permit, but now there are houses that have been there forever that have not had a permit because they were
Sure.
pre-zoning houses that have
Grandfathered.
limited, they're barely off the roads. I mean,
Yep.
we're not getting on camera that we're trying to go after everybody that parks in Dummerston Village.
Right.
No.
It's really more of a, let's look at the parking where permits have been issued, since we've had zoning, I think, so.
Okay, so that's steps we'll take.
Okay.
Okay? Good, all right, great, all right, let's move on. Correspondence for information, I don't have anything in
What the
mind.
heck did you say? Everybody's leaving.
I know, I mean, the good
You
stuff's
skip-
coming up.
You skipped the visitors.
Yeah. If the visitors had something to say, we did.
Harold, you haven't said anything.
I'm here to make sure to remind you, the select board, of next Thursday, the September the 8th, of rescue
Yes.
meeting with the select board is invited, and hope they come,
Yep,
because it's a presentation of this coming year's contract
yes,
All right.
and cost
that is
increases
at
and so on and so forth.
7 o'clock
7 o'clock
I
Okay.
wanted to go to
At
that.
rescue.
at rescue on Canal Street.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you. for-
reminding us to
Do our job.
open the floor to public comments. Yeah, that would have been a
It
shame to not.
invited all select board members of the 15 towns that we
Yes.
represent.
September, so that's a Thursday.
It is, it's next Thursday.
And then we have the Wyndham Solid Waste Net Metering meeting. That is that?
That's
Six.
The 6th, okay.
At 11 and
The
7.
6th?
Yes. Or at least that's what you said. Okay, thank you, Harold. Jean, you want?
Oh, no, I was just here to listen.
Okay.
You're such a good listener, Jean.
I noticed you were
Keep him in
slowing
line.
it down, yeah.
Look at that.
She got a little bruise.
I saw that.
Just keep the brakes on him for the rest of the meeting. We'll get out of here before dark.
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay. So then, under correspondence for discussion, we had the letter from Dick Furcus, and I did respond to him. I couldn't help myself, but what?
I just think we have a very limited budget, and I think everybody in town deserves to see the sheriff's department go by their house occasionally too. And when you look back on our invoices from the sheriff's department, the majority of his time seems to be spent on East-West Road, and some on Middle Road. I personally have seen him on East-West Road and here in Dummerston Center quite a bit. I guess I'm a little discouraged that he felt that it was more important for you to write a letter,
Or to be the lead on this.
be the lead on this. I've been the
I was
liaison
disappointed
for.
too, and I cleared him up.
You
on
did
that.
well. I've been the
Okay.
liaison for quite a while, and we had a pretty poor relationship with, I think, both not poor relationship, but we didn't have a strong relationship with them, and I think the
we had a
board.
lot of misunderstandings, and I think
Right.
we've gotten them
And
cleared
we've
up.
gotten past them, and we have
Yeah.
a good relationship with the state police now, the board does, and with the sheriff's department. And I just, our chairman's job is to set the agenda and run the meeting and speak to the press about our decisions occasionally. And I thought I'd worked pretty hard working with the sheriffs as a liaison, and it bothered me that he felt somebody else should be involved. But
Right. For the record,
you did
Told
you
him
answered
that,
properly.
with the board that we have, they don't need a leading on this issue, that everyone's very involved in this issue throughout the town.
And it is
And I
important,
did recognize the great job that you've done.
but it is
as
important for
liaison.
the sheriff to cover all the community, because we are getting a lot of break-ins and there's a significant speeding issue. And
So
I think the answer to this is at budget time, if people really want to see the sheriff's department more, they need to let the select board know that we need to increase the budget. So there's more time for the high visibility monitoring that we're discussing. It's hard to have high visibility monitoring when you're only hiring them for 18 hours a
Well,
month.
20 hours.
20 hours a
20
month.
hours a month now,
Um,
right, right.
I think that's a struggle to have a lot of high visibility on such a limited budget.
Yep. So when we do have the sheriff come for a talk, I'll let Dick know that we've
Right.
got someone coming.
And I think it would behoove us to do that, to schedule that, and that we're approaching budget season.
And has there been one of those traffic studies at that location?
Yes.
Yep.
And,
Right.
and so we've seen what the typical speeds are that people go and,
Yeah,
okay, and that information is available
Yes.
to whoever
I
would
think
like
that
it.
was, we did that last year.
The 85th percentile was 38 miles an hour.
And what's the speed limit there?
It goes from 25 to 35.
93% of the vehicles were going faster than 25 miles an hour.
Steve, would it make
But
sense?
35 is the speed limit
On the,
in a certain part.
yes, Matt Mann had recommended that we actually increase the
Increase the
speed,
speed,
but the majority of the board voted to keep it as it was and add another 25 mile an hour sign.
I see. I remember that.
Steve, does it make sense for you to schedule a meeting with the sheriffs?
Yeah, I'd like to wait a little closer to budget time so we don't maybe have another one, but they're happy to meet with us.
Yeah.
Well,
We're probably 2 months away?
Yes, I'd say a little closer to budget time,
I-
just so they have a better idea of what they're
What
going
their
to
rate
be.
is gonna be
Yeah.
per hour, and
Um,
they're more than happy to come, that's.
Oh, I
that's,
understand. But the other thing that occurred to me is we just heard from Tim that they're happy to, if there's a problem spot, they're happy to, patrol for speed.
And we had done that, when I haven't worked with Tim yet, we just barely made our contact here last week, but
Right.
Paul and I texted quite often, and, I don't know if you know, but they sit in Dummerston Center quite often, the state police have.
Mhm.
I've seen them sitting right at the town, highway garage, they've sat right here. So they actually, and they've sat a lot on Route 5, by the, park there, but,
What about getting them on Middle Road, for instance?
I'm sure they would.
Okay. Any more thoughts? Anything else?
No, I mean, I will, assuming that it sounds like the board wants me to contact them, make sure that they're up for meeting with us, but I think we would be looking October-ish,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a good idea. By then, they might have their hourly rate straightened out for next year.
Mhm. Okay. Sounds good to me. How about that?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Good? Great. All right.
One more quick
One
thing.
more
though.
quick thing.
I will follow up with Lieutenant Oliver and thank him for coming to the meeting, and, and certainly encourage him to, any patrol time he has, to patrol our roads, but
Mhm.
with everybody's blessing.
Yeah, that would be great.
But what he did say is he wants to know specific problem spots, as I recall.
Mhm. Okay, moving on, unfinished business. The Center Fire Station fundraising drive is up to $13,100.10. And, let's see, I don't have any other fire station updates.
Write it down.
Have you heard whether, how they're doing with signing a contract or any?
Not particularly. I think they're still working with Tim with the changes that had to be made.
Okay,
Other than that, I don't.
all right. So we'll just keep on, when they've made a decision, we'll go ahead and do the next step. Fire station?
You're right, on the investment policies.
Okay, that's
so
next, yes.
Um,
You came up with investment policies?
Right, and Charlotte asked me if I'd been asked to sign a signature card and that they would want my social security number, I guess, because I would be a signer on the account. But when I actually got a call from Edward Jones, they said the question was, are we going to use a state investment policy or does the town have one? And I explained that, it's we have it in draft form, but it's not something that had been adopted, and I thought that it might be an agenda item for this meeting.
Yes, it is.
So, well, I presented it at the prior meeting. I know you were not here, and I didn't know if any of the rest of you had had a chance to read it. Oh, I will say that I talked with the municipal investment officer from TD Bank yesterday, just to get his take on the tension about, do you invest locally or do you invest for maximum return? And he says he sees a wide range amongst other towns. And I also talked with him about how to invest, for instance, the Miller Fund. And he said he thought my investment background in the trust area was helpful, and essentially what the policy I proposed, gives the board some flexibility to make other decisions or other investments in mutual funds and the like. I'm not really suggesting we make those decisions now, but it does give that possibility. Oh, one other thing, I talked with my friend Carl Lind about, you know, if we had upwards of $250,000, you know, that was not subject to FDIC insurance, he said he thought it would be too much of a hassle to get it collateralized, and this fellow John said, no, we do it all the time. We did talk a little bit about rates. I spoke with Carl, and he said with DD they'd get, you know, perhaps they could pay 0.5% with an enhanced money market account, or up to 1% if we were willing to invest for 5 years. And I said that I didn't really think that you know, we wanted to extend maturities out that far with rates the way they are right now. With this, you know, and Carl was a little bit more cautious about, you know, trying to reach for yield. You can get now about, I think, up to 1.15% on money market accounts nationally with companies like Synchrony and Capital One. And Carl's concern was if one of those were to go under, it would take a while to get funds out of the FDIC. John felt, as I do, that that's really not so much of a concern. But again, I think we're not looking at making any specific investment decisions tonight, but rather, you know, the policy that I've presented.
Right. So,
You know, I had visited with Joe after the last meeting because I had questions, and I guess I feel a little better after our discussion. Just because we say we can put it into a stock market doesn't mean we're going to, obviously, and
Right.
but it does give us, or a future select board, that option. So I feel a little more comfortable with it than I did during the meeting.
good. Okay, so we have these policies. What is your pleasure?
Well, for the sake of discussion, I'll move we adopt them. Let's start there.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
Just, Joe, when we looked at that one where it was talked about, where you specifically talked about the fire department, and I don't have it just in front of me.
Yes, and I mentioned that where I said, you know, maybe I said such as or including, and you know, and Hugh thought perhaps that was not necessary. I decided to leave that in just because I mean that's really why we're, you know, adopting it right now, or hopefully or discussing it, I should say. And I don't think it hurts to leave that in. To be honest with you, I don't really see, you know, I don't see a lot of this activity in the future. You know, people giving appreciated securities for, you know, things like the fire department or conservation commission or anything of the sort. But it's, I think I left it. It's kind of open ended. It does mention the fire department though.
How does it, I just want to see the wording on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then the now account, you
Oh, and yeah, we did talk, you know, I talked at the meeting about now accounts and what that is. I think you suggested perhaps I define now accounts and what they are. It's like a money market account where you have to give a week's notice in order to get your money out. And I think they still exist. You know, I don't, you know, I think for the most part now, you know, money market accounts or CDs. And I didn't really think it was necessary to define it or even delete that.
but just, so
Yeah,
does
people-
now, does NOW, does that like, what
It's
is that?
it's negotiable order of withdrawal.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, anybody could, you could look that up.
Let you stand.
Did
I
you
guess
find
you
this
might,
on the fire
I was
department?
sort of
Yeah.
against this last meeting, mainly because of the, you know, thinking about investing in the stock market. But I did discuss it with Joe at length after the meeting, and, you know, it's just giving us those opportunities. It doesn't say we have to do it.
Right.
It gives us the opportunity to accept appreciated stocks, which we know, or we believe one is waiting to make the contribution, so.
Right, and we need approved policies in order to open an account.
And just so it's clear, I think it doesn't list, you know, investing in stocks, but rather than mutual funds.
Yeah.
You know, registered investment companies, many of which are invested in stocks, but not all.
Okay. Yeah, just, that one, just as long as that works, because, you know, which are used to help finance construction of the fire station in Dummerston Center, as long as we're not like as long as everybody can, the future people understand that it's a very general thing, and that's an example, not the specific.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
wanna- I don't wanna keyhole us into, well, it's not the center fire station you're doing it for, so you can't do it, so.
Yeah, and I'll just read that section. It says, securities received by the town for organizations such as the West Dummerston Fire Department, which are to be used to help finance the construction of the fire station in Dummerston, shall be deposited in accounts by investment accounts by independent broker dealers. It just says such as, you know, it's certainly not limited to.
And it kind of gives the history of it too. You know,
Right.
that this is how it came up.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example.
So what if you just said such as, but not limited to, or what if we slightly amended that, so?
I don't know,
You're
is that
comfortable
even
with it?
necessary? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
Thank you.
great, thank you, Joe, for
Good work.
doing that.
Thank you.
Very
Yeah.
thorough job. So we have update on job performance evaluation form.
Yeah, so I have a new draft form to hand out. And I really liked Steve's comments last time that, you know, we needed something besides yes or no. And so I added the option of yes with attention to area of necessary improvement. And what that would help happen is if there is room for improvement, a need for improvement, if we check that box, something needs to be
Following up.
in this box that says necessary areas for improvement or focus. So it just puts the onus on us as the evaluating body to be really clear about what behavior or skill or additional effort we're looking for. But it doesn't say, we're still not rating them.
Yeah.
We're not saying on a scale of 1 to 5,
Right,
you're a
three.
4,
Yeah.
and this person's a 3, and
Yeah.
this skill is a 4, and,
It says they fulfill the job requirement, but they need possibly this
yes.
area of
Right.
activity.
And I added also that these are examples, skills such as, you know, meets productivity standards, completes work, you know, such as, meaning we're not checking those off as the skills that we're looking for. It's for productivity or for, you know, whichever one you're looking at. Think about these kinds of things. But basically, you're looking at their job description, what their roles and responsibilities are, and these are the additional skills and characteristics that go along with fulfilling this in the best manner.
Any
So,
thoughts, questions?
I like this better. I
Do you?
like that it isn't strictly
yeah, I do
black
too.
or white.
I
There's
do
a little
too.
gray area, yeah.
Yeah. And so this is a full, complete evaluation form because it has the employee's information on the front. You have to attach the job description and you have to say that the job description has been updated and is accurate, so that's a piece of evaluating somebody. And then any comments that are related to the job description. So this first page is really important. And then here are the key performance elements: job knowledge, quality of work, productivity, problem solving, judgment, planning and organization. Managing people is the one where there's also the possibility of checking not applicable, because really Lee, our road foreman, is the only one who's managing people. But I wanted this form to be consistent for everybody. Organizational support, teamwork, cooperation, adaptability, those are skills that we would want in everybody. Then there's a place for additional comments, and then on the back are the goals. So then again, it puts it on our shoulders to be really clear about what the goals are, and those goals would partially come from any areas that need improvement. So it's a full you know, this kind of takes care of everything.
Mhm. So I would think we need a motion to accept this as our annual performance review
Form.
form. Yeah,
Make the motion that we accept the Dummerston Municipal Annual Performance Review as our format for
Yeah.
Evaluation
evaluating
form, yeah.
employees.
I'll second that.
okay, discussion? I think it'd be good to give it a try, see how it works.
Yeah,
Be nice to have a consistent form that's used more than just 1 year.
yeah, good, well, we hope that it would work, and I would encourage the point person, or the person that's being evaluated, to show them this form. There didn't seem to be a lot of support for having an employee evaluating themselves, or have a self-evaluation form, but I do think that it's really important for the employee to know what they're being evaluated on, and to understand, you know, the categories that we're looking at in addition to their job description. So obviously you go over their job description with them, make sure it's accurate, update it, and you look at this form so that they know the things that we're evaluating them on. But we're not asking them to do any self-evaluation form.
So ahead of time, you recommend they get this, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
You know, a blank copy or whatever.
Yeah.
okay.
And it seems long, but, you know, it's just that it takes a lot of space to do these blocks.
Mhm. Okay. Well, we'll have a much better idea once we try it out,
Yeah.
if we vote to accept it. So, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this is our new form for the annual performance review.
Great.
Thank you very much. This was a lot of work.
So we'll need a schedule for the
For-
other two employees.
Yes. Of course, one, yes, there's,
Well, actually, 3 employees. We should have a, you know, a schedule.
of course, one has given their notice, and
That's true.
by the time we get around to it, they're
Yeah.
not going to be,
Right, so we'll be doing another 3-month
yeah.
review, and
Yes,
that's great. So
hopefully.
really what we need is a schedule for the road foreman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Very good. Great. Okay, so here on our unfinished business is just another reminder about that Women's Solid Waste Management net metering meeting on the 6th of September.
Yeah, and who's gonna go to that?
I think you and Alex were going to go. That's
Oh,
my
okay.
recollection. Is
Okay.
that your, everyone else's?
And
I
that's
thought I
September-
heard that.
Yeah,
September 6th?
yes.
Okay,
And they're having 2 sessions.
Right.
For some people who may be able to attend a morning or afternoon meeting.
Okay.
You know, so it's morning and then again,
I think it's 11 and 7.
yeah,
okay.
I'll send you a reminder.
Well,
Okay, so, under new business, Geraldine had also been working on a select board assistant job description, or revising the one we had been using.
I didn't do that. I guess I'm a little, I need to understand some comments that Lori made about it.
Ah,
That, so we put an ad in, did we put an ad?
No, we, let's see, we, put the word out
Good night.
on the town.
Good night.
See you later, thanks. We've been trying to get the word out. There's an article, short article in the Commons today.
Right,
We've discussed it on the BCTV. We're going to put the yellow board out.
Oh, good. Okay.
The front porch forum, there was a,
Right, yes, I joined that.
Can we get it in the views also?
Yeah, so that, I wanna make sure we put that on the agenda. The views deadline is
yes.
September 27th.
September 27th, of course, and then it will come out, I don't know, in November or something.
Yeah, we should be long done by then.
Yeah,
shouldn't we?
yeah. So,
Hopefully, put it that way.
yeah,
So.
okay, so.
Select board
It's certainly
assistant,
important at each of our meetings
administrative
that you
assistant.
tell our viewing audience that we're looking for an administrative assistant.
Yes, I
And
think
they
it's,
should contact us.
I think it's very important that we bring this subject up and that it's a paid, part-time position.
And there were very agreeable people to work with.
Yes, we've gotten very good,
Very good.
reviews.
And we're
Yes.
anticipating this.
We're a fun group to work
We,
for.
we budgeted up to 10 hours.
To 10 hours a week.
Yeah, and
It's a perfect job for the right person.
I
Yep.
think we're just looking for the perfect person for the right job.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I have not reviewed that job description.
Okay, actually, you had sent it out,
Oh, maybe I did review it then.
yes.
There were some areas that we were gonna renumber number 1 instead of number 8.
Oh, I did do that, yes.
It's all coming back.
It's all coming back.
And there was the liaison, we were gonna discuss the liaison position.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I sent it to you, right? Okay.
I-
So I should have had
the-
copies for everybody
The
here.
plan was, we weren't going to discuss it, so you were going to send it out to everyone, and then we were just going to send our comments back to you and not do a
But I
general
did, I
discussion.
just sent it to you.
Oh.
I don't think I sent it to everybody, I
Okay.
just sent it to you.
All right,
So what should we do now?
I think you should send it to
Send it.
everyone.
Okay, I will send it to everyone. I'll look at it again and remind myself what I did, and I'll let people, because I didn't know how, what we do at our office is we do track changes, and then you can see what gets changed.
Yeah.
But I'll put what I changed in an email message and then send the document.
Okay, all right.
Send to everyone.
Because I do think the draft you sent,
Mhm.
other than the one comment I made, I thought it was an improvement over
Okay,
the job description that we had.
okay,
So I
good,
thought you had done
okay, good.
a good job on it.
Sorry I didn't remember that.
Yes, that's all right.
Okay.
2 weeks is a long time between meetings, yes.
Well,
It's not long enough sometimes.
Well, but it's long enough to forget.
Yeah, well, yeah,
If you do
that's true,
something
yeah.
right away,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
that's
then
true.
it's like, did I
Yeah.
do that?
Okay, so we'll table this
The
discussion
next,
Okay.
our next.
And we don't have anybody stepping forward, I mean,
No, not yet.
there's not a line yet, no?
there's not a line.
No. All right, under other business, we met in executive session to have a 3-month review with our new zoning administrator. And since we can't make decisions in executive session, I would accept a motion to approve a pay increase for the zoning administrator.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, any discussion?
Should we just say what the pay increase
Yes,
is?
she started at $15 an hour, and we are voting now to increase it to 16. And that is within the budget that was approved at town meeting.
And it's effective in the pay period that she's currently working in. So her next paycheck will
Yes.
reflect the raise.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so it goes without saying that she did pass her 3-month
Yes.
evaluation
Might as well say,
review.
yes,
Yes.
she, we thought, the board thought she was doing a good job.
Mhm.
We're pleased with her work and look forward to her working for the town
Yeah.
in the future. Oh,
So all those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The only other business I have, the views article for September, the deadline's September 27th. So.
And it comes out in November,
Well, I'm not sure if it's later in October or November,
but around
but
then,
yeah,
early
yes,
November.
right.
What should it be about? What would be appropriate in terms of our,
It depends who
What-
writes it.
Yeah,
Now,
what I've done.
I could count on you having forgotten that you wrote the last one. Try to get you to write it again.
No, I think in fact I wrote the
Oh,
last
yeah,
one.
Joe wrote it, all right.
But what I did, you know, when I've done this in the past, is I always just go over prior agendas
right,
and minutes, and that always prompts me to you know,
to say what we've been doing.
exactly.
But sometimes there's something coming up
Yes.
that would be good to prepare people for, or to, you know, that's why I was thinking, okay, so it comes out the end of October, November. Is there something that
Coming up, right,
coming
Like
up? So,
the budget.
yeah, like the budget.
right.
I guess I would just ask you, is that something you would consider taking on?
I'm kind of at the limit of my volunteering for this meeting, but
You could put this off for a little while.
September 27th?
Yeah.
The new guy.
no other volunteers.
I'm not my busy, jeez,
That's-
I could probably take this one.
You could.
Okay.
Like, we could put a little more heat on the junior member of the select board, you know?
I try to write one a year, and I've already got one in this year. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I think the last one I wrote was back in November.
1980 something.
No, I did one last winter, I did
Oh,
one
okay.
last winter.
So Steve's
No, I'll do
gonna,
this one.
Steve's gonna take one for the team.
Yeah,
No, I'll do this one.
good.
It's gotta be in by the 27th, you
Yes.
said, right?
Yeah.
You could write it about the
Excellent.
fire station.
You could write about sugaring. Some of your articles on sugaring have been very good.
Or conversations in the sugar house. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
oh,
like
that,
that title.
well, I-
Conversations at the church.
Sounds almost better than the back porch.
It
doesn't it?
does.
Yeah, it does.
What
Get your own
did you
form.
say? The only other business, as I think I mentioned, Matt Mann is no longer with the Wyndham Regional Commission, and he asked if we might write a letter of recommendation for him. And so, if we're all agreeable.
Would you do that?
I would do that. if
I mean,
we're
I've certainly
all
been happy
agreeable.
with his involvement, that, you know, I don't have a lot of involvement with him with this board, but what I have had, I've been very pleased with.
Yeah, sure, makes sense.
Yes. You unanimous?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, good, I'll take care of that. Does anyone else have any other business? Here's your last chance. All right. I'd accept.
Well, we adjourn.
All right,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.